This is TWiT.
So this first story I like to call Losing Space Race 2.0. So we've seen a few articles recently in notable publications saying, hey, it's probably over. China's tested every major piece of equipment they've got. They've tested their lunar lander. They've tested their EVA suits. They've tested the capsule, although it hasn't hit orbit yet. And they look to be ready to make their 2030, or as I keep saying, I think 2029 deadline. So last week, a panel of notable space experts addressed the Senate Commerce Committee, sounding the alarm over the pace of the Artemis lunar landing program, which we've talked about a lot on the show. And these expert witnesses included former NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, Alan Cutler, the President and CEO of the Coalition for Deep Space Exploration, Mike Gold, President of Civil International Space at Redwire, and former Deputy Commander of the U.S. Space Command, Lieutenant General John Shaw. Major topics included China's rapid pace of development, as described. And what I found refreshing was that Bridenstine directly addressed the advantages of the Chinese authoritarian system. As he put it, consistent uniformity and clarity of purpose under a centralized government. I added that part. And Bridenstine referring on the U.S. side to the to and fro of U.S. administrations that have damaged the Artemis effort, which he worked so hard to help the Trump administration put into play. Rick, what happens now? Tell me the future, 8-Ball.
I know, right? No, I guess at the moment I'm extremely confused about things. This happened like a year and a half ago as well, a similar Senate hearing where they were trying to figure out, or the people were testifying, and I think a former NASA administrator, Mike Griffin, was on that, about what was going on with the Artemis mission and that we're losing the space race and all this kind of stuff. And back then, people were, if I remember this right, people were saying, well, the current Artemis architecture isn't going to cut it. We got to do something else. All of this kind of stuff. SLS, we've had people arguing SLS isn't it. We got to do something different. And now I'm hearing people saying, well, the whole Starship architecture is the wrong architecture. We got to do something different and so forth and so forth. So to me, it just sounds like kind of like what you just said. We are just so confused about what it is we're going to do and what we should do.
Yeah.
And the Chinese are just like, well, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it. So, and the other thing is they're telling all the international people, it's just like, if you want to come along, sure, come along. We're happy to have you.
And people are listening. And this is very much a replay of the first space race where Russia and the U.S. were kind of vying for unaligned powers to come in and work with them on their efforts. And I think it's important to differentiate. I mean, Artemis, at least notionally, is about sustained lunar efforts, although the way things are going, it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. Whereas at least the first Chinese mission is really a land grab and go 6-hour excursion, much like Apollo 11, but shorter. But they do have a long-term plan, and with their robotic probes operating as well as they have, they look to be in a good position to see that through. So this is a very real thing. But and a little bit of good news, an associate administrator, I'll get that right, was finally appointed for NASA. Amit Kashtria, I think it's pronounced. He's a 20-year NASA veteran, so he's the highest position in NASA senior management that is actually a civil servant, and the only one that has any space background, I might add, because the current administrator, temporary, doesn't, nor does the chief of staff. He was previously a software engineer at NASA, flight director for the ISS, deputy manager for the ISS Vehicle Office, and deputy associate administrator for NASA headquarters Moon to Mars program, which is kind of a big rangy thing. But as I said, perhaps most importantly, he actually has experience in this and knows what he's talking about when he refers to these efforts, and isn't probably going to say things like, we need to conquer the solar system, as one of those other guys did. Rick, do you know much about this guy, and does it give you hope?
I don't know. I don't really. Just looking at it now, I think it's fantastic, of course, that they're promoting within, and they're bringing people that know space, as it's been said. The only question I would have, and I would have this for anyone that was in this path and put in this position, how long is it going to last, given the given the current way things are going in the current administration. I hope that he's able to keep his position and keep NASA moving in a good direction.
Well, me too. And now we've got a story that actually is right in your wheelhouse that I like to call, because I'm a crude, lowbrow individual. And I've been so good this week, John Ashley. Oh, don't roll your eyes. I like to call this one Three-Eye Atlas's Flatulence. So we have an interstellar comet slinging through the solar system. And recently, the Spheric Space Telescope spotted a cloud of carbon dioxide around the interstellar visitor. Now, let's not forget, this is the third interstellar visitor that we tracked. And Avi Loeb, of course, as he is wont to do, came out and said, maybe it's a machine. Now, a little less stridently than before, but maybe it's a machine. It could be an interstellar probe from aliens. And because it's slinging around the backside of the sun and will be out of view of Earth, it might release little probes to relay information about us back to the aliens that are light years away. And, you know, they'll see how much disarray we're in, and come make us lunch or something. I should say make us for lunch. But the word for the astronomers that have been looking at this data say they're seeing a CO2 cloud as well as water ice in its nucleus. And they note that it's very similar to comets we observe within the solar system, specifically representative of the type of comets that have spent time near a star, being shaked and baked, or at least baked, and is thought to be possibly 3 times as old as our solar system. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, these types of objects, these interstellar interlopers, if you will, I think are totally fascinating. They and it's something relatively new, right? The first one was found, what was it, 2018, 2019, something?
They're a little earlier, yeah, 2015 maybe.
Yeah. Well, what I see here is the neat thing is we just started looking for these things, basically, and we were just looking for them because we were looking for near-Earth asteroids, so things that could potentially hit Earth. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, what's this? They were speculated to exist, of course, before, but it was always thought that it was always low probability. We'll never see anything like this, blah, blah, blah. And now we've seen, since we've had the capability, we've seen 3 of them in a decade. And so now what I see, especially with this one coming, means that there's going to be a lot more that we're going to discover, especially when the Vera Rubin, starts to be fully commissioned and turned on and is doing everything it needs to do. We're going to start discovering hundreds of these things. Maybe every month we're going to have a new one coming in, which means we're going to learn an awful lot about our galaxy. We're going to learn an awful lot about other solar systems with looking at the stuff that's coming off of them, and the similarities and dissimilarities and so forth. So I think it is literally just the tip of the iceberg in the discovery of these types of objects, which is pretty fascinating.
So is the big tell with these things the speed they're moving, and if they come in out of the plane of the ecliptic or the solar system's equator, if you will?
That's my understanding. That's all we have really, is kind of like, what was the, you trace it back and what was the incident vector, velocity vector, and you kind of look, well, where it could have been coming from and so forth. And that kind of gives you a rough idea of age and so forth. But all this is just, we have 3. We have 3 of these objects right now. And it's really the beginning of a whole new field of astronomy and astrophysics.
If you like what you just saw, be sure to check out This Week in Space. You can catch us on your favorite podcast app or subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links below. Thanks.